Imagine if kitchens were public in the same way as pools, parks, and libraries. Imagine if there were spaces where you could attend free cooking demonstrations, where you and I could go to make pickles together on the weekend, where you'd eat and chat with your neighbors after work, where there was information about farmers markets and local food access resources, where we'd hang out after school and perform food poetry, watch a film screening about GMOs, and compete in chop-style challenges, where there was a multilingual recipe wall and a cookbook nook next to a shelf of all kinds of spices. Think about how all the equipment looks. What are you smelling and who's cooking it? How does the hot sauce taste and the ice cream and the spring rolls? What kinds of conversations are you overhearing? And how does the dough you're working with feel in your hands? Think about how this might change your routine, your social life, or society as a whole. These spaces would not just feed us physically, but also mentally and socially, creating the foundation for personal well-being and community connectedness. The good news is you don't have to imagine this whole cloth because they're real. They've existed for centuries as hearths, communal kitchens, and other models, and they exist today in modern forms. I know this because I've researched them, advocated for policy shifts related to them, and collaborated with some amazing people and organizations to help bring them to life. But don't just take my word for it. You are all agents of change in the food system, each with unique gifts to impact it. Today, I'll share how food-based public infrastructure is moving food from commodity to a vessel for social transformation and the role we all have to play in this. Public kitchens are not soup kitchens or food pantries or cooking classes. They are, in contrast, spaces that facilitate community engagement and empowerment in ways that these other models usually can't or don't. In the gastronomy program here at Boston University, Dr. Karen Matheny teaches her students that food is never just food. Nourishment is a highly layered experience, and while eating is universal, nearly everything else about it is not. Commensality is the act of eating together. Commensality is as old as humanity, and it's constantly reproduced across space and time. Although it's worth noting that it doesn't just occur naturally when it's time to eat. It's an intentional sociocultural practice that must be orchestrated somehow. The embodied experience of eating with others means eating like others, but we do not simply become like one another just by eating each other's food. Commensality isn't terribly rational. We don't biologically require it to live, but it is vital to us. In many ways, it grounds us in our humanity, and it gets reproduced over and over again because we're happy in that state. Eating and cooking together, in that context, engages us with the environment and with the living world. We live in connection with others in shared meaning. This is also why food is a perfect vehicle for discussing power. When a food lens is applied, many other areas come into focus. It allows us to address access, nutrition, history, environmentalism, economics, migration, flavor, identity, religion, politics, social justice, and more. All of these items are on the plate in front of us, whether we realize it or not, and the food system touches them all. The food system, which is what we call these thousands of intersecting spheres of influence, is too big to see. It's too big to look at on the whole. So we have to focus on it bit by bit or bite by bite. So if we're interrogating the food system by stitching communities together by way of a public kitchen, it's an ideal time to consider embedding justice into the work. One way of doing this is to understand that shared access to kitchen spaces that are free and open to the public is the embodiment of food justice. It democratizes food access, food preparation, and the sharing of culinary knowledge. These spaces are multilingual, multi-generational, and operate outside of typical socioeconomic divides. Food here is an equalizer and an inroad for people. It starts with the food, then we can talk about all of the other things. So public kitchens begin to serve as examples for community resilience. With that comes an ethic of mutual accountability and shared trust. This is especially important with the absence of third spaces in the United States. Third spaces are essentially spaces that aren't work, aren't home, and where you don't have to spend money to be welcome there. So pools, parks, libraries, community centers, basketball courts, playgrounds, beaches, etc. Here we might consider how the built environment can impact human health and well-being, especially when it's co-designed with community. If we seek to challenge dominant narratives of isolation, lack, and division, building these strong cooperative behaviors can allow us to be solution-oriented and action-oriented in the fight against them. You've heard the expression, it takes a village. So be a villager. Go into the village and be with the townspeople, and if we're finding that there's no town square for us to gather in, let's find one, let's build one, and fill it with snacks. Way easier said than done. With the pressures of modern life and the systemic barriers that were designed in opposition to community care, we can be made to feel paralyzed even when we're motivated to make change. How can we fix this feeling? Start where you are with what you have. By integrating public kitchens into society, local food moves beyond where food is produced. It begins to encompass all the nearby skills, resources, knowledge, materials, and relationships. Relationships. My tough love for you all is that community building is a big group project, and if you've ever been in a group project, you know it can be a little squirrely sometimes. No matter what though, you or I cannot and should not helicopter into a neighborhood and say, here's your public kitchen, all your issues are solved, you've been saved, no need to thank me, but you're welcome. No. Although eating is universal, nourishment is highly layered and personal. So if we're introducing a new piece of public infrastructure in a neighborhood, it should be designed by and co-created with the neighbors. So find the soccer coaches and the third grade art teachers and the dietitian at the WIC office and the chef of that place you've been wanting to try and the farmer, you know, the one that also has the bees, and the poetry slam MC and the immigration lawyers and the doulas and the firefighters and the 7-year-old kids with 3-year-old little brothers. And don't forget to pick up the phone and call the elders because they may not be down with filling out your Google form. Find these people and engage in commensality at least once. Eat together and notice. Notice how someone's face lights up when you offer to make them a plate or compliment their recipe. Notice what people begin to open up about when they're snapping beans or shucking corn together. Notice the controversy when folks debate whether or not you should rinse your chicken. And notice the laughs when someone sarcastically asks, would you like some pie with all that whipped cream? Notice what becomes possible. Food is a beautiful and powerful way in, then we can talk about all the other things, including the hard things. Starting where you are with what you have. Through this practice of mutual aid and connection, you may discover you have more than you thought. This is how we reframe the narrative around scarcity in conversations of food justice. Bootstraps thinking and hyper-individualism will never save us. Being made to believe that yes, we're in a prison, but somehow the key is in our own hands is a false choice between justice and freedom. The point here is that hope and joy are strategic. To move toward justice, first we must envision it. Public kitchens offer us a vessel to imagine and then create tangible spaces unbound by imposed norms or oppressive structures. It shifts the acts of cooking, eating, knowledge sharing, and solidarity away from transactions and grounds them in love and collective care. As Howard Thurman has taught us, this is a framework for freedom. Public kitchens aren't the answer, they're an answer. There is no one doctrine for food systems change. More importantly, public kitchens relate to larger frameworks of liberation and a pluralistic future where food sovereignty is centered in the pursuit of our collective nourishment. We know there will continue to be unique and defining challenges in the 21st century. We cannot use 20th century solutions to solve them. Public kitchens are not about romanticizing the past or getting back to something we think we've lost. They build from ancient practices of commensality, the sharing of cultural wisdom, and community care, but ultimately they are a modern application that addresses modern needs and desires. As the problems shift, so should the problem solvers. We must ask ourselves, what is our vision for the future, and how does food justice contribute to that vision? Nourishment in eating and beyond is the right of all people. Consider what this makes possible. Reflect on your current role in the food system, and then imagine what it could be. Food's universal nature allows each and every one of us to be engaged with it. So we should claim that role and that space, literally and figuratively. Above all, please remember that the food system offers many powerful levers for change. In this work, believing is seeing. Public kitchens serve as profound reminders that global issues may still require local, nuanced solutions, which we can address bite by bite.